Hello, everybody, and welcome to another thrilling episode of Murder We Spoke. Episode number 3. What are we doing?
We're doing Richard Ramirez, a.k.a. the Night Stalker.
Night Stalker.
I put quotations because he has several other names that I don't know if anybody was aware of. Valley Intruder and the Walking Killer. Didn't know his names were that.
Yeah, that's wild.
So what is your general knowledge of him?
My general knowledge, for the most part, I just know that he was big into thievery and then, sexual assault, unfortunately. Sometimes also including murder afterwards. Possibly leaving some of the people that he sexually assaulted alive. Mm-hmm. Some people he left for dead that actually survived the attack. Mm-hmm. And then getting caught with vigilante justice.
Yeah, actually the best part. We'll get to that. So who is Richard Ramirez? Richard Ramirez, he was an American serial killer who killed about 14 people. Mm-hmm. That doesn't count the sexual assaults or the robberies or the torturing. That will come later. Mm-hmm. I will explain it. I won't go into detail because there's way too many to have time to do. But I did mention the ones that did lose their life because I feel like the pictures and the names, like I said in the last episode and the episode before that, is more important to acknowledge, to put a face to a name instead of automatically connecting them with, for example, Richard Ramirez. Mm-hmm. They are individual people. So let's see, his early life, he was born, I'm not even going to try to pronounce that, but Ricardo Ramirez. On February 29th, 1960, in El Paso, Texas. He was the fifth child of Mexican immigrants, Mercedes and Julian Ramirez, known as Richard or Ricky. He got a lot of head injuries, just to sum that up. There was one significant one with a swing that hit him so hard that it gave him epilepsy, it knocked him out and gave him epilepsy. I don't know what all these other incidents were where he hit his head. I'm guessing, just going to take a wild guess and say that it was nothing good. It was environmental. I know this. They said this did affect him a lot. He was only 5 years old when that happened too. So from then on, he had epileptic fits for the rest of his life.
Yep. That's crazy.
Yeah, I know you've heard of this, Matt, because we had a discussion before.
About his cousin?
Yeah. His cousin, there's a lot of things I learned about his cousin that I didn't know. That I knew he was in the Vietnam War. I knew he had a very heavy influence on Richard Ramirez.
Yeah, big time. They were best friends and everything, even though, of course, they were relatives and everything. Yeah. Sometimes, people don't really interact with their cousins.
If you don't have a good household, you need that one, as I wouldn't know because, I'm a girl. But as a girl, I still need somebody to look up to go, that's who I'm going to look up to. Unfortunately, Richard Ramirez chose his cousin, who was not a good guy.
Not somebody to look up to.
He's very not a good guy. He
wasn't any kind of war hero, that's for certain, because he was the
Vietnam War was really bad.
Yeah,
regardless
definitely.
Of where you were or how good you were. I'm saying nobody was a saint.
Yeah, no, big
in
time.
Any war, but this guy enjoyed taking pleasure in torturing people, which I don't, and taking pictures of it.
Yeah, big time. And then he would show them to Richard Ramirez as they were hanging out and everything.
He was really crazy. Young too. He was he was 13 when he witnessed his cousin killing his wife. I know he turned around and pointed a gun to her head and shot her right in front of him at 13 years old. He was also a witness to that, obviously. And he was found not guilty in that murder and reason of insanity. This defense is largely thought to be attributed to his PTSD during the wartime. And he served in Vietnam. So they're like, he has PTSD, even though I understand that, but I also feel like it was intentional, in a sense.
I wouldn't be surprised. And the PTSD was just an excuse to enact on it. I don't know. I mean, it's crazy. The whole psychological background behind stuff.
He got out too. He got out really sooner rather than what he was supposed to. And some things I did research on. I also didn't know that they also still hung out after that. They hung out, and that's who taught him to peep in people's windows. to steal items from houses.
Plus, he had a hardcore drug habit.
Yeah, that's it. As I'll mention.
Just to clarify really quick,
Yes.
that was his cousin. That
was his cousin.
Yep.
His
older
first cousin, older cousin.
So he was found not guilty
Due to
after
insanity.
murder.
He went to the insane asylum for a while, and then he got out. And he was still not a good person when he got out. He taught him how to, sneak up to people's windows, peep in their windows, steal things. He was like pretty much, I wouldn't say taught Richard Ramirez everything, but like started him out on a path that he probably shouldn't have been on.
Yeah, big time.
And also,
and they would smoke weed together and everything. And I'm sure that didn't give marijuana a good name
which
from
also
there
led
as
him
well.
to not saying that marijuana leads to other drugs, but when you're on a bad track already, he did get a little bit later. He does, in here he does get into cocaine. But he began having fantasies of hurting people, like bondage, I would say.
Yeah.
I just summed that up because there was a lot to it, and I was like,
yeah, big time. There was so much, it was all from his cousin a lot of the times too, just like showing him all these different things, especially like the atrocious things they did when he was in the Vietnam War. So
they didn't mention anything other than like his cousin being that influence. Like they didn't mention if he was like beat at home.
I thought he was. I swear.
They mentioned that he had other head injuries, which I just assumed were from like either his parents or he fell, but they never really mentioned hardcore that he was like abused.
I swore I read somewhere that he was abused by his father. I could be wrong. I could be thinking of somebody else, but
there is many. I have watched shows where it said like his parents were good to him. I'm not sure. I can't go into details or quote anything that he probably was. That's what they probably didn't want to mention. Then you get like 6 head injuries, and you're like, why are you getting 6 head injuries? So his first arrest in 1977 was for marijuana possession. And then after that, he moved to California and progressed to cocaine and burglary. And, he had an interest in Satanism. That I do know. It just said interest. It didn't, later it gets into it, but I don't
mention
from what
any
I read,
worshiping. It was just like, oh, okay, I'll look into it.
Yeah, it was kind of like he was like a groupie for Satanism, if that's anything.
That makes sense.
So
a side note, I did a quick checkup on the Abusive Family.
Yes.
He was beaten by his father and grandfather.
Okay, all right. So there it is.
So he had a little bit of a.
That's why I was like, head injuries sounds like 6 head injuries. Where's CPS when you need them?
Yeah.
At that time, I'm not sure that they. I'm sure they were around, but or
I
if
think
they even
even
went to the hospital.
I feel like even nowadays there's stuff that slips through the cracks. Look at those kids in California that were like chained in their rooms and everything.
Yeah, that's right. So yeah, a lot of things, and if that could happen nowadays, it could definitely happen in the 70s. So he moved to California, like I said. He started a cocaine addiction. He was already burglarizing home, but he just continued. So we're gonna move on to his victims. Like I said, I mentioned the ones that lost their life by Richard Ramirez's hands. I do have information about the other ones. We could take a quick glance to that too. But right now I'm going to mention the first one was on June 28th, 1984. So he did have like a good time period between like when he moved there and when he started doing it. The victim was a 79-year-old Jeannie Vincow. He stabbed her and killed her.
Essay, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And he stole things from her house. I have her picture down here. That's her picture. That's Jeannie. He waited for 9 months to do the next one. So he waited a long time to do the next one, whether it was like a drug-fueled thing or not. So his next victim was nearly 9 months later, on March 17th, 1985. He attacked Maria Hernandez, who escaped. Her picture's not here. She escaped, and then killed her roommate, Dela. I'm gonna accidentally slaughter people's names. Yeah. Okay, I'm just gonna call her Dela.
Okazaki.
Okazaki. Thank you.
No worries.
Not satisfied with these assaults, he also killed another woman.
Tsai Lian Yu.
Yes, Tsai Lian Yu. Yes. The same evening, in the same evening, spurring a media frenzy that saw Richard Ramirez dubbed as the Valley Intruder because, from the location by the press. So this is the first victim, and then he went on and killed the second one. All in the same night because he wasn't satisfied. So just 10 days later, on March 27th, he killed a 64-year-old Vincent Zazzara and Zazzara's 44-year-old wife, Maxine, using in a textile that would become his pattern later on. So this is how they got his pattern. The husband was shot first, and then the wife was essayed, and then she was stabbed to death. In this case, Ramirez also took her eyes out. I'm going to summarize that in better terms. I, in my research, was taken back by this because I was like, this takes another level of
just cruelty.
Crazy. Not even crazy, just like no feelings about it. Every time when I was doing my research, I would come across another victim. I was like, oh my God.
Yeah,
oh my
it's
God.
terrible
it would
to
get
think
like
about.
Worse
and the worst thing is that at the time, I think this is one of the reasons why everybody started locking their doors and everything.
People back then didn't lock their doors.
No,
they thought
leave
they were
the door
safe
open
in their
and everything, and then lo and behold, this stuff happens.
We were raised in a generation where it was very stranger danger. Like I remember everything. I remember always being on edge, and I don't feel like there was always a reason to be on edge.
Yeah.
But they taught us like strangers are everywhere. Strangers are gonna come, they're gonna pull up, and they're gonna throw you in their van. Like you're never gonna be. They're gonna go, look at my puppy, come see my puppy. I understand that because it does happen to people.
Oh God,
but it's never happened to me. So I was on edge and anxiety ridden for a very long time. But it did teach us strategies. It did teach us to never get in a van.
Oh my God. Yeah.
Never talk to strangers you don't know. And nowadays it's a whole nother level of that though.
Yeah, big time, because there's unfortunately people that aren't very sane all over the place.
And now online.
Yeah.
And now they can
and the world's a lot
online.
smaller because of online and everything.
Yeah.
You're talking to somebody halfway across the world and
you wouldn't even know.
Yep.
It's creepy.
Yep.
But so this picture of them is a younger picture of them. It was hard to find a lot of people's pictures because their names were very
that's a couple that I think you could discover like them older and after one happened.
Yeah. I think they were older here. They were 44, so I don't know if that represents 44. But they could be them, but these people they didn't mention, I had to do deep research. These people had a son, and the son was there when it happened. And he said if he was alive now, he would have shot him. But he was young, as far as I'm concerned, or scared, so he didn't do it. But he was there in the house when it happened. So and I guess Richard Ramirez didn't know that. The next one, pretty much a full scale police operation. Yielded no results. And he just repeated his attack again on retired William and Lily Doe in May 1985. So the time difference, let's see, 10 days for me.
Yeah,
I just want to see the time difference.
1985, so.
The same year,
March.
okay. So he got a little more active.
So 2 months.
He got a little more active. This was the oldest couple. Don't quote me on this because I have a whole list of people that were either assaulted and
essayed or
robbed
or attacked like physically with like a knife or something like that. But then them being left for dead and
they lived.
Yeah, a lot of the people. Yeah,
but
which
because
is wild.
of them, they were like later on. I'll let you
Able
know.
to, yeah.
What actually happened was because of one person out of that list of like 16 people who survived and 14 people who died.
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't name everybody who died, but I have the list of their names, so we can go through that. This girl coming up. I'm not going to show her picture yet. They just found out that she was a victim in 2009. They matched his DNA with a cold case of a 9-year-old San Francisco girl. He lived in the same apartment as her. They found out later on.
Oh yeah.
She was killed on April 10th, 1984. And yeah, it was really bad. It was some things I don't like.
Yeah.
As soon as I saw that, I was like, because this girl was only 7 years old.
Yeah, I know. That's
I was
insane.
like, I have to like walk there. And then I continued reading, and he was like that even before this with kids. He had an issue with kids too.
When he worked in the hotel and
women
everything.
and kids always. And it was.
And he was on the list.
Yeah, and it wasn't like he was sneaky about it.
No.
There was one point where he worked in a hotel, and he, essayed
was
a woman,
abusing it.
and her husband walked in, and her husband beat
the
him
hell
up,
out of
like he
him.
almost like hospital
Murdered
beat him up. And he also essayed 2 kids in a elevator. Like it wasn't like this was his only
thing that he's ever.
He just was like
displayed the pattern early on.
And later on, there is a psychologist that does break it down. I have it, in our outline. That breaks down what he had, and it makes sense. It makes sense. I don't think he ever took any responsibility for any of these. Not saying anybody has, but he never even cared. It looked like I'll have pictures of him. It looked like he just didn't care.
Yeah, he didn't have any empathy or anything. He was very merciless. And even with his burglaries and everything, he would be like, "Swear to Satan, swear to Satan."
Yeah, it was bad. It was the way he did things. I don't know. He's just a messed up dude.
Yeah.
Just the beginning to the end. So over the next few months, his murder rate increased. And he claimed another 12 victims.
Wow.
In a frenzy of burglaries, essay, and violence, and also satanic rituals too. They were very vague on that, but besides the pentagrams and stuff, that was really all from what I read, all they found at the scene was pentagrams, and it's very general. So I don't really. I know I feel like that was a tough act that he put on. This is, I don't know.
Do you guys know how he got into the Satanism or what brought him into that?
Probably the cousin, I would probably say. I wouldn't be surprised. I did never really. It said in the beginning that he became doing that, he started doing that when he was in California. So I don't know whether he got into a wrong crowd.
Possibly.
Or I don't, in my research, I never really specified. They just said he got into it in California. And so
I feel like that was also in regards to the cocaine or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, he was doing cocaine, so that makes you even more. If you're already violent, cocaine probably makes you even more violent.
Yeah, and energized.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, you could stay up all night and do it.
Yeah.
I wouldn't know, man, but
I don't know. I've never done anything like that.
Yeah, that's what I said. I was
God.
I don't know. Maybe you could stay up all night. Maybe you can. I don't really know.
I presume you can. I'm cracked out.
So there was a lot of media and police pressure. So Ramirez pretty much left LA because there was a lot of pressure in media, and he's like, I'm not doing this. I'm not going to get caught yet. Pretty much in August. He journeyed to San Francisco, where he took 2 more people's lives. I was unable to find a picture of them. Peter and Barbara Pan on August 17th. Pretty much his unmistakable MO. Satanic symbols meant that the Valley Intruder moniker was no longer applicable because he wasn't in the Valley. So that's where the name came in, the Night Stalker. That's where that moniker came in. So that was actually the last moniker that anybody ever gave him. So, and that's what we know him as.
Yeah, big time.
So you're telling me he was so evil he literally killed Peter Pan?
Yes.
Yeah.
I know when I looked it up, I got pictures of Peter Pan, which
I can imagine that being
I was like,
difficult
this
to
is
find.
very inappropriate and I don't know how to take this. I was like, I gotta go. Especially the live action Peter Pan with the
Oh
I was
my
like,
God.
okay.
The Robin Williams Peter Pan.
Yeah. So the press gave him that name, the Night Stalker. Yeah. Pretty much most of his assaults took place at night. So they called him the Night Stalker. In the home. So he was stalking the home before he went in. So they thought. So I have a list, like I said, of other victims. Very long, very complicated. These also include the victims I named. So it goes from 1984. And this list also has if they survived, if they didn't survive. Most of them survived out of all of them. It took me back how big this list was, and it was. I mean, like, and it went to 1985. So he started killing people. It looks like 1985 mostly. I like this list because it does say that little girl, Jenny, I think. Let me see, maybe not. She's on this list, is the moral of the story. I didn't get a lot where they had her, like, I had to do deep research to find her picture. I mean, obviously, they don't want to put, like, a 7-year-old's picture out for everybody, and that was only just recently found.
I'm surprised how many people actually survived the attack.
Yeah.
There's a lot.
I mean, in the beginning, it was mostly him robbing people. He would attack them, and the first person to die, it looks like it was from her injuries from being attacked. Like it wasn't an intentional attacks, and yeah. I'm just looking. It's a lot. So when I was taking this in, I was like, this is a lot of people in different areas too. So all this is different areas. So he didn't have a set area. I can see why they had issues finding
tracking
him.
down because he was just all over the place.
Yeah. So I bet you didn't know there was this many people. I knew there was a lot of people, but I didn't know it was like 3 pages worth of people.
Yeah, no, when I was initially, before I looked them up and everything, I didn't realize, like you said, the list was this long or that so many people survived. I thought when he actually, performed his murders and everything, he, finished people off.
Yeah.
But
I know there was only...
It's wild.
Trying to see, because we can...
Like, imagine being a survivor after that. That's, like, terrifying. I'd want to live in a safe.
Yeah, I know... Oh, okay. So the Peter and Barbara Pan, they only the wife survived. So she survived. I didn't know that. See, like lists like this are very important because some articles from news outlets aren't fully descriptive of like who lived, who died. Yeah, it's a lot to take in. Do you have any questions?
No way. No, it's always just scary to think about.
Yeah, it is. It is spooky. And I think it would be even easier. I think it's both. I think would be easier and harder to, nowadays, if something like that happened nowadays, to catch him. Because wouldn't you be smarter technology-wise?
I mean, that's the thing. You like to think that, but then stuff like the Gilgo Beach killer happens, and that's pretty modern, where forensics should be, reasonably advanced, but
They never...
yeah, exactly. Somehow that guy slipped through the cracks.
It's very spooky. I think killers nowadays, since we don't really, get a lot of like spree killers, they would call them, or serial killers. I think there is more, but I think that they're so underground that they won't get caught. Because back then they didn't have, like they did have fingerprints, but it wasn't as advanced as what we have now, like DNA wise.
Yeah.
They didn't have They didn't have like companies that store the DNA of like missing people. They didn't have a lot, and they were overwhelmed with killers. And I watched this whole special on how why there were so many serial killers in the 80s. And the 80s was because they said, think about the generation that raised them. Before that was World War II. The people who came back from World War II. So they said a lot of those people had issues because they were in the war. They took those, not everybody. Some good people went and got help. Went and saw somebody, dealt with it other than this. But bad people who came back worse, either, abused kids, they did so much things that they said it actually damaged the images and the stories, damaged kids growing up so much. And that's why we had a spree of like all these killers all at once.
Yeah. That, and I mean, during those times, like that kind of punishment was still used in schools a lot of the times, unfortunately. Like I'll never forget my dad's stories of, like, if he was bad in school, they'd have him kneel on peas or kneel on rice and stuff like that.
They used to tie my grandma's hand behind her back. And because she was a left-handed, they used to tie her hand the whole day behind her back. I was like, nowadays, those things, you would lose your job if you did those things. But back then, it was like, they were allowed to just tell you to go home. Like, even if your parents weren't there, they'd be like, go. You can just leave, So they think that that's the reason why in the 80s, there was so many people like that, because there's people, and they also witnessed people coming back from Vietnam. They witnessed all
they showed Vietnam on TV a lot of the times too, just to show how
it was the first
gruesome the war was. Because a lot of people were glorifying it, like, America's gotta go help out.
Everyone was distracted. Everyone was distracted. That's what I also think it was a lot easier to get away with everything. Back then. Yeah,
there wasn't cameras all over the place, like in the city or whatever, and
no cameras.
Nobody had cell phones that had cameras on it. Nobody.
And a lot of killers went, like the last one we talked about, the Zodiac. Went MIA because there was nothing. They had nothing.
Yeah, he's completely gone.
Nowadays, most people would have been caught. But I think the killers have gotten smarter.
Especially now with like those internet sleuths and everything. Like if they were able to figure out his cryptic letter and everything that nobody was able to figure out after how many decades?
A lot.
I feel I do see that as like a possibility. Like a lot of them would be able to piece things together.
Like we said, the Gilgo Beach killer.
That one's still.
He was precise. He left nothing. Nothing for them to go. He moved them, but
that's another story.
Different day, different story. But I just think they're smart, and I don't know. I don't know. You don't ever hear about like mass killers as much. I mean,
not really anymore.
In different ways, you see them now. But I don't know. Because I think people get the help that they need.
Hopefully.
But a lot more than back then.
Yeah.
It was like they came from a generation of don't say anything outside the house. They came from, if it happens in your house, we don't say anything outside the house.
Oh, we're going to take a quick break right now. So we'll see you back shortly after this advertisement for more Murder We Spoke. Bye. See you soon. Hi, everybody. Do you like reading books, but with your ears? Well, then, if you haven't tried it, try Audible, because Audible is pretty sweet. You can see a whole bunch of books, but you could listen to them with your ears after you see them with your eyes first on Audible.
Yeah. You can find all the books you need that you can listen to on Audible.
Yeah, with www.audible.com.
Nope, audibletrial.com.
audibletrial.com
/SpaceZamboni.
/SpaceZamboni.
Can't even get our name. How does that happen every time?
One time we will get this right.
audibletrial.com /SpaceZamboni.
Yay!
I think I'm going to listen to 20 books tonight. What are you going to do?
I think I'm going to listen to 134.
Man.
Are there any books that you would recommend to people?
Any books? The Grinch That Stole Christmas. He's kind of like a stalker. He broke into
Rachel wrote a
everybody's
book.
house and stole their
Rachel give you a
toys.
book to say?
Yes, I do have a book.
If you want to listen to it with your ears, is The Night Stalker, The Disturbing Life and Chilling Crimes of Richard Ramirez. Find it at your local online store near you.
And listen
Yeah.
to your favorite books.
Audible!
Audible.
We love you. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Murder We Spoke.
Ooh.
Night Stalker. We're getting right back into the mix. Rachel, what else can you tell me about the Night Stalker?
All right. So I have a funny, interesting story. This is the best part of the story. I love a happy ending, and this is my favorite "you're caught now" story. Okay, so the
At least
best,
this is him getting caught. This is
yes, him
But
getting
Jesus
caught.
Christ.
This is why we're laughing.
Yeah. Oh,
Not the
That's why we're laughing.
"Ooh" part. Not okay, so this is him getting caught is the best revenge story in real life.
yeah, it's crazy. It's like something out of
Ooh, you have no idea, Matt. The
Albert and
details-
Costello.
I thought it was
The
just
Three
he
Stooges.
got caught by people. No, it's
No, he
very
got-
long.
He
So
got pointed out and brutally
not
beaten.
even that. Not even. There's more than that, Matt.
Uh-oh.
There's like a half an hour before that. Okay.
Like a Seinfeld episode.
So his last victim, both survived.
thank God.
Erickson,
Hmm.
Inez Erickson. Remember that name because he was the one who gave the description
Yeah.
for him, the one that was used to catch him. Also was obtained was a footprint, and then he also stole a car and forgot to wipe it down. So they also had his fingerprints, so they knew exactly who he was because he went to jail before. And he did not wipe the car; he just left. So they had his fingerprint.
That's crazy.
And he was positively identified as Ramirez. And he was described as a 25-year-old drifter from Texas. Apparently he smelled bad too. I cut that out. With a
I
long
believe it.
rap sheet that included many arrests for traffic and illegal drug violations. Okay, so on August 30th, 1985, Ramirez took a bus from Tucson, Arizona, Tucson, Arizona, to visit his brother, but he did not know that they already put out his
his picture.
face. So
they identified him.
and they
jerk
sent
is the
it
one that's
everywhere.
out.
They sent it everywhere. So they streamed it across everywhere. And he couldn't meet his brother because his brother didn't answer the phone, didn't give him a call ahead of time. On the morning of August 31st, after noticing a group of elderly Hispanic women fearfully identified him as El Matador, which literally means the killer. So they're all fearfully going, oh, the killer. Ramirez saw his face on the front page of a newspaper with the headlines calling him Invasor Nocturno, which is pretty much, I'm saying this wrong probably, the Night Invader, which is the Night Stalker. He fled from the store in panic. After running across the Santa Ana freeway, he attempted to hijack a car, to unlock a Ford Mustang, but then the resident pulled him out and he was like thrown on the side of the road. So he got up and then ran across the street again and attempted to take a girl's car keys. And then her husband came out, hit him over the head with a fence post in the pursuit. And then a group of 10 residents chased him down the street. And forced and held him down and relentlessly beat him. All I could hear when I was reading that was the cycle of the Three Stooges for some reason. It was like, doo-doo-doo, like he flew out of the car. And then the cops showed up. They didn't know what exactly happened. All they heard was that there was a fight that was going on. So they showed up and they're like, oh God, this is Richard Ramirez.
Yeah.
So they arrested him. They found him actually severely beaten, not just beaten. It
Yeah.
was like he couldn't move beaten. Again, this seems to be a common recurrence of him getting beat up by people.
Yeah. Ton of head injuries.
Again.
Yeah.
But thank God they caught him. So he's not, he's not out in public. So they unarmed him and took him into custody. That was the long thing that I was like, I didn't know all that happened. All I knew is that he got beat up by people. And even the insanity of that just continues on to the trial. Yeah. There's a big scandal that happened during his trial. I slightly knew about this. So this is about his, like I said, his trial and conviction. So he was already caught, thank God. They have him now. At his first court appearance, Ramirez raised his hand with a pentagram on it and yelled, "Hail Satan."
Yep.
That was where everybody went crazy about him being like a Satanist. Mm-hmm. I believe he wanted to be. I believed he thought he was. I do not believe that he like met the requirements, if that makes any sense, you know?
Yeah.
Like he thought he was because he thought, bad thoughts and he murdered people and the pentagrams. And I don't give him any credit for that. I feel like that's just attention. I'm good. For me, I just ignored that because that, kind of overtook, like what he did to me. Yeah. Like I was like, okay, he still murdered people regardless, This had nothing to do with it. It was just him killing people. He was hurting people before that.
Yeah, big time. Even before he practiced Satanism to whatever extent he did and everything.
Yeah. It's probably in his basement. All right. So on August 3rd, 1988, the Los Angeles Times News reported that an employee overheard Ramirez threatening that he was going to smuggle a gun into the courtroom and shoot the prosecutor. So because of that, they put in a metal detector before he even got into there. So they had him.
Smartest thing they could do.
Yeah, they had him already, nailed down. So they got him there. So he's not going to shoot the prosecutor now. Okay. So August 14th his trial was interrupted because one of the jurors, Phyllis Singletary.
Wasn't she found murdered? Well,
yes, you're getting there.
But it was unrelated.
No, it ended up being unrelated. She didn't respond. She didn't come to court. So they sent cops there because pretty sure that's what they do.
And a lot of people were just concerned that it was the possibility that he was having.
He sent somebody there to kill
jurors,
her.
Yeah.
It ended up being her boyfriend, and they ended up finding him with the gun. He took his own life.
Yep. And didn't he also have a friend that smuggled a gun into the courtroom and attempted to kill people? So it's crazy because he already had influence and other followers, even though he was just caught, which is nuts to think about. Usually people tend to build like a following, it seems like, after they're incarcerated and in jail for X amount of years.
Yeah.
But
also, I do have to correct myself. They did say the killer, but I said something very wrong. Something completely different. Not very wrong, but completely different. But they did say that, okay? So my translation was not
El
correct.
Matador.
Yeah, pretty much, which means bullfighter. I'm just going to say that. So let me see. So pretty much people were terrified that he was conducting hits outside of his prison cell. So they were like, what's going on? Blah, blah. And it ended up being, like I said, a coincidence. A very strange coincidence, but a coincidence nonetheless. On September 20th, 1989, Ramirez was convicted of all charges. 13 counts of murder, 5 attempted murders, 11
essays.
Thank you. 11 essays, and 14 burglaries. During his penalty phase of the trial on November 7th, 1989, he was sentenced for execution in California's gas chamber. He stated to the reporters after the sentence, "Big deal. Death always went with the territory. See you in Disneyland." I thought that was interesting. That also shows that he does not care. That he got convicted. He does not care. That he murdered everybody. And those are the people that there's something.
Yeah.
There's some
something
kind
wrong.
of like sociopath thing going on where they have no empathy for anybody else.
They don't even care.
He didn't even care if he died.
Yeah, big
He was
time.
just like, big deal. It came with the territory. Like, he killed people. Good, big deal.
Yep.
So that's also, there's many killers that are like that, but there's many killers that aren't. So you know the difference between the two. So there was a psychiatrist that visited him, Michael H. Stone, described Ramirez as a made psychopath opposed to a born psychopath. So he wasn't born a psychopath. He was made into a psychopath. He said Ramirez's schizoid personality disorder contributed to his indifference to the suffering of his victims and
untreatability.
In his untreatability. So he just didn't care about people. Like I stated a minute ago, this is a psychiatrist coming out and saying this. So Stone also stated that Ramirez was knocked unconscious and almost died multiple occasions before he was 6 years old. As a result, later developed temporal lobe epilepsy, aggression, and hypersexuality. That makes sense. I feel like in his case, it makes sense. In other cases, there's a lot of other serial killers that they say, oh, he hit his head really hard and that's why he's like that. I think for some people, like in his case, he was hit multiple times. Like not just hitting the head once and then all of a sudden had personality disorders. Like I feel like a lot of serial killers use that as an excuse to like lessen the blow of what they did. I don't think this is his case. I think he was made into a psychopath.
Yeah, from his cousin.
He was made. When somebody's made into a psychopath, there's so much trauma that it makes them into it, whether physical or mental. I think a lot of killers claim that they got hit in the head and that's what made them like that. But I think a lot of killers are born that way. I think there's made and there's born. There's two.
I wonder if there's a genetic factor to it, too.
Because there is people who had really, really good families and turned out to be serial killers. There's no way that there's not both. There has to be both. For me, it's very black and white. So I appreciated this psychiatrist for making the difference between he's just a psychopath. That's very general. There's two kinds. You make somebody into that. How bad do you have to treat that person to turn it to that? You know.
When I was in the criminal justice program, they actually talked to us about when they were doing genetic research, and like they would study the facial structure and like genes to determine. They tried to predetermine if someone would commit a crime. Excuse me, but they found that to be like unjust and illegal because they're like, well, we can't say.
How do you even do that? Yeah. It's almost like lie detector tests. Like those aren't credible. It's how do you prove that that's. It's a very, I'm sure one day we'll get to it. I think there's something else. I think there's a lack of attention paid to these kids. I think at the time there wasn't the right government agencies for these things. I think parents, I'm not saying it's all parents' fault. I'm not saying it. But if you notice signs in your kid that aren't right, there is ways to get help. There are places, there are people your kid can talk to. We can figure this out earlier and get them the help that they are obviously desperately crying out for.
Yeah, before they start like torturing animals or showing signs of like sociopathic behavior.
Know the signs. If you have a feeling that there's an issue with your kid or loved one, know the signs. There is signs. They hurt animals. They like burning down buildings. They act out. They're no compassion. Like that could be many things though. But if you do not get the help, if you do not say something, then people are going to suffer because you did not say something, whether it is someone's wife, someone's child, a whole school, whether it could apply to anything, and don't turn a blind eye to it. Cause I know it's very easy to go, well, that's just, they're just quirky. It's just everybody's different. I understand people have loved ones that they love and they don't want to think that about, that person. I understand, but there are ways that people can get help now.
Yeah, big
and
time.
you can help your loved one way more than just sitting there silently and pretending like it doesn't exist.
Plus,
you know?
I don't think there's as hard of a stigma in regards to mental illness as there is like back in the past.
I think we're in the perfect timing.
Yeah,
I
big
think we're in the
time.
perfect decade for mental health and mental awareness. You know, mental health awareness.
And nobody should be like afraid to go seek help if they need it or feel they need it or need somebody just to talk to and everything.
They have hotlines that you can call. They have services that you can go to. Even if you turn to a friend and talk to a friend, if you need a friend, you know, some of your friends are always there to listen and always there to help you. But again, there are numbers you can call.
Yeah,
there are services. If you see something, say something. That's, you know, even if it comes to like, you know, if you see a kid getting abused or if you notice the signs of abuse, you see something, you say something can save a kid's life.
Yeah, big time. If you see anybody acting like the kids in Cobra Kai, just get those people some help. That way they get their therapy. They could just hang out and not fight each other with the various forms of karate, you know, before it gets that severe.
Or become Richard
Or breaking
Ramirez.
somebody's spine, you know, or Richard Ramirez. It's the worst thing. Yeah.
I feel like back then they definitely didn't have the services we have today.
Yeah, big time. And I don't know. I feel like maybe there should be even more service.
There should. We're getting there. I feel like we're getting to a good place where people are becoming aware that there's other issues and, you know, people with, you know, mental health issues are not outsiders or don't
big time.
deserve to be shoved instantly in a mental hospital. I think
now
there
that's
are
not
ways.
even the case a lot of the times, unless it's really like the risk of them doing something excessive. Like,
But even the mental hospitals are so much better now.
yeah, big time. That and a lot of the times they have group homes that accommodate people, you know, with all kinds of different, you know, problems.
The
Whether
moral
it even
of
be
the
with
story-
homelessness sometimes.
Yeah, the moral of the story is see something, say something.
Yeah, big time.
You could save somebody's life. You just period. You could save somebody's life.
And you could save your life too.
You could save your life. You're in a bad situation. See something, say something. It doesn't get any better if we don't do anything about it. If we pretend like it doesn't exist, because it exists, and the monsters aren't under your bed.
Unfortunately,
they're
the people around
they
you a
look
lot of the
just
times,
like
not
you
to
and
be
me.
scary. Because what's this? I forgot what the statistics was. It was like 1 in 32 people are like a sociopath. Like if you're out in public.
Even people who aren't sociopaths end up doing that.
Yeah.
We are the monsters. So not saying everyone is a monster. I'm saying that we can prevent.
Yeah,
people
from
from
getting
being
that
that
far.
way.
Because
Yeah.
I don't know, I like to give people the benefit of the doubt that they could make a change or something, or they could seek help and then, you know, prevent themselves from doing anything this severe where it's like, all right, now they're notorious for a negative thing.
I think by the time Richard Ramirez ended up doing the things that he did, it was already too late.
Yeah, it's true.
I believe
feel
that
like once
everybody
you
can
cross
heal
that
themselves.
border with
but-
doing that first victim, then that's kind of like it.
Yeah.
Because then it's, especially if you're not caught, then it's also just kind of like, you know, getting your cake and eating it too and being like, all right, well, if it worked out this time, it's going to work out all these other times.
Exactly. I also forgot to add a note in here. He did get married and he did have a girlfriend
which is
in
crazy.
prison.
Yeah, which
he
is
had
wild.
a girlfriend and a wife in prison. I didn't mention her because she was more of a groupie. I do not like giving credit to people who end up being like groupies of serial killers because they're not in the good way. There's nothing good about groupies with serial killers. I don't even want to acknowledge them that they exist. I know he married a groupie, but I don't acknowledge them in any way because I don't think what they're doing is correct. They're not doing it out of the best of their heart. They're doing it for attention. They're doing it for the attention of somebody. Maybe not acknowledging what they did.
I think one of the only instances where you really have to like acknowledge the people following it is like Charles Manson, where they literally like
He had people.
He had a couple of wives, didn't he?
Ted Bundy had people. He
Yep.
married a groupie too, but he had people waiting for him. It became very like
it's wild.
I don't understand how. I mean, everybody has the right to love somebody, regardless of what they've done. But I, in my mind, could never understand somebody who,
No.
with the amount of people he hurt, to go, yeah, this is the guy. This is, this is the one I want to be with. I'm never going to have a chance with him outside because he got sentenced to every count. He got sentenced to pretty much, he got sentenced to death penalty. There's no way out for him.
Yeah, big time.
So what happened, in a way, time caught up with him. He ended up getting B-cell lymphoma, which is, they said didn't help that he did drugs. He also had hepatitis C, which is a viral infection. And then he ended up dying at 53. He was on death row for more than 23 years of his life. So he didn't even see he wasn't even like executed. He was, died in jail. Which, unfortunately to say, we got him. It feels good to be like justice was served in this case. He did spend a lot of years in jail, and he ultimately died in jail, like he was supposed to. I don't know if there's much more to say than that.
Yeah, no. Definitely not a good person that should be eligible up
lock
for
your
parole
doors.
ever. Yeah, big
the
time.
moral of this story is lock your doors.
Be aware of your surroundings. If you leave your car or anything
Yeah.
like that, or if you're going out late at night, you're in a town that you're not familiar with, or walk with a friend.
Yeah,
park
walk
near
with a
each
friend.
other.
Or
Yeah.
there's services where you
There's
can
power numbers.
you can walk with your phone, and it has the camera behind you if you feel like somebody's following you, and it's a security system that you walk with your phone and somebody's talking with you the whole time you're walking, so they know if somebody takes you, they have the photo of the person who took you. And they can see the person behind you. They have services
That's
that
wild.
you can do. Call somebody,
Yeah.
FaceTime somebody. There's ways that you if you don't feel safe, if you're walking alone at night and you see a store open, go into that store. See something, say something.
Yeah.
Keep your doors locked. Keep your cars
Yeah,
locked.
immediately when you enter the house, lock your
Alarm
doors.
systems. I mean, if anything's convinced me to get an alarm system, it's Richard Ramirez.
And make sure to lock your windows, and also make sure your air conditioners are securely screwed in, because sometimes
point.
people will press in your air conditioner and break in that way.
That's very smart, man. I didn't think
Which
about
is
that.
crazy.
I'm gonna go do that when
Yeah.
I get home.
Oy.
Yeah. So that was
That's another episode of Murder We Spoke in the Books, everybody. Again, if you want to find out more about Richard Ramirez, check him out on Audible. There's a whole bunch of books by a bunch of people that you could listen to, and
there's even
Learn more about it.
podcasts you can listen to
podcasts.
about
There's
it.
also movies. I forget what they technically refer to them as. What? It's
But
having a
you
brain
get the
fart.
point.
Yeah,
Like documentaries?
documentary or like the docudrama movies.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Like a docu-series and stuff.
So, with that said, we're peacing out, everybody. I'm Matt,
I'm Rachel.
and this was Murder We Spoke. Peace out, bye.